Okay, good evening, today is supposed to be a Q&A, so if you all have any questions, we can start. Otherwise, I might want to say something. Tonight I came here because of the Achincha Remembrance Day. I didn't attend today, but I'll attend tomorrow morning, and only half a day. Do we have a Buddha Remembrance Day or not? Yeah.
I think 5 years ago.
I hope we won't close down. Recently we had one foreign monk come here. I don't know whether you all know. Created some problem. I think it's this rope. A lot of us Asians, we see Westerners becoming monks. So maybe we think it's harder for a Westerner to become a monk. So we have more respect. And sometimes we become greatly disappointed. Any questions?
Some time ago when I went to VB, I met one Australian and he asked me one question. He said that if our consciousness is conditioned by our past karma, whatever consciousness that we experience is one old karma. But how come other beings who have their own karma also can witness other beings' consciousness? What happens to other beings?
In the suttas, the Buddha said it is very difficult to meet somebody who has not been your father, your mother, your brother, sister, relatives, etc., friends, etc. So those that we meet are karmically related to us, have some affinity with us. So some of the karma that we have done is in common with them. That's why we come back together. For example, the Buddha said that if two persons want to meet again in their future life, 4 things are determined that they meet together. One is belief, that means say like religion. One is one of the factors for coming together. Another one is generosity or selfishness. Equally generous people will meet together, say like in heaven, and selfish people will meet together in the ghost realm. And another factor is sila. Those who keep sila will probably meet together in the heavens. Please sit further in so that other people can come. Can sit right up. It's okay. Sit right up. So these 4 factors that determine our coming together in a future lifetime is faith, generosity or selfishness, sila or no sila, and wisdom. Wisdom or foolishness. Equally foolish people are born together, and equally wise people are born together. So the fact that we come together means we have much in common. So sometimes you find, for example, one house, the fire guts the house and the people cannot escape. So maybe 9 people in the house are burned to death. So maybe they did something in the past together the 9 of them. Maybe caught some animal and trapped it and burned it to death in a rat hole or whatever. So they suffer the same fate. So you can't say that you did a certain karma, then why other people are born together. Somehow we are karmically linked. But the Buddha said karma vipaka is something that is extremely complex. And don't think too much about it, otherwise you go cuckoo. Yeah.
In our bookshop, a lot of people can buy Buddha images. When they buy the book, it says we are in a dilemma. If it says don't, problem. If I say yes, also problem. What should I do?
Yeah, so who can bless the Buddha? Who is qualified?
No, I think the monk says, the people in the bookshop says, they will get in trouble.
Then keep golden silence.
Can I ask you about, I think one of your talks, I can't remember which one, because I've heard so many. Bhante said something about, it's about practice, it's a question of practice. And Bhante said that there are some books, even I've read it myself, many books by Joseph Goldstein, IMS, all this, who says that you can exercise mindfulness in just washing dishes, in everyday life, and we hear that again and again. And Bhante in the talk said, no, that is not mindfulness. And could Bhante just enlighten us on that?
Okay.
Thank you.
This word mindfulness is generally used for the word sati. Sati. But the word sati is not really mindfulness. The actual word for mindfulness in the Pali Suttas is sampajanya. Sampajanya. For example, in the monk's precepts, if a monk lies deliberately in full awareness, that term sampajano is used. In full awareness, knowingly. Sati comes from the word smrti, which means to remember. And there are 9 suttas which have the same definition of sati. In the suttas it is said, a person who has sati remembers what was said and done a long time ago. So it is the quality of remembering. And why is it has the word sati to do with remembering? Because this sati is the 7th factor of the Noble Eightfold Path. And when you practice samasati, you're supposed to remember to be mindful of 4 things. This word sati, you can say it is to remember, to recall, to recollect. So to recall is a good word, to bring to your mind. To bring to your mind, that means to be mindful of these 4 things. It is not general mindfulness. When sati is translated as mindfulness, there is the general mistake to think that it means general mindfulness. That means when I brush my teeth, I'm mindful of it. When I'm eating, I'm mindful of the taste. When I'm walking, when I'm watching TV, I'm mindful of watching TV. But watching TV has nothing to do with the Buddha's teachings because it does not help you to get out of samsara. If you're walking around with your 6 senses open, and then you're seeing this, and you're hearing that, and you're smelling this, and you're tasting something in your mouth, and you're Something is, you have this tactile sensation and all these things. And all these things make you mindful of the world around you. But that does not lead you to liberation. Okay? So the Buddha says that is Mara's playground. If you put your attention on sights, sounds, smells, tastes, etc., you will be trapped by Mara. Mara is putting the bait for you. Beautiful sights to attract you. Beautiful sounds to take your attention away, etc. So the Buddha says that is not your ancestral home. That is not your original home. Like Ajahn Chah says, go back to your original home. So, to go back to the original home, the Buddha says to put your attention only on 4 things. The 4 objects of sati. What we Chinese we translate as Shen Nian Chu. Yeah? So, it is a specific mindfulness. It is not general mindfulness. A very specific, only on 4 things. So a better word for sati is either recalling or recollection of these 4 objects and not any other thing. Now when we look into the suttas, the word sampajanya is also a practice. The Buddha says that in charana, the practice or conduct of a monk, there are 12 things, or 10 or 12 things. And one of them is sati sampajanya. And in the description of sampajanya, the Buddha says when a monk is walking, he is aware that he is walking. When he is sitting, he is aware. When he is changing his robe, he is aware, etc., etc. Yeah. If you look carefully, even this sampajanya is not general mindfulness also. It is mindfulness concerning the body. Mindfulness concerning the body. Whatever the body is doing. The Buddha did not say you practice mindfulness when you are watching TV, when you are reading the newspaper. The Buddha didn't say that. The Buddha said only in relation to your body. And why? Because you will notice, those of you who practice meditation, you will notice that whenever your mindfulness runs away, what Chinese we call ta wang xiang, xiao tang, xiao sai, thinking east, thinking west, your mind is running all over the place. You have forgotten that you're sitting here in meditation, right? The moment you remember your body is here, straight away your mind comes back to the present here and now. Yes or not? So it is important to bring your attention back to the body, because every time your attention comes back to the body, you are mindful of the here and now. That's why in the Kayagata Sati Sutta, mindfulness of the body, the Buddha said, mindfulness of the body leads to the deathlessness. So, in the spiritual path, in the holy path, we are trying to seek liberation. Okay? So, if you want to seek liberation, you have to understand very well what is liberation. What is the state of enlightenment? Enlightenment is the destruction of the asavas. The Buddha talked about 6 higher knowledges, abhinyas, and 5 of them are psychic powers. Yeah, have to do with psychic power. But one of them has to do with liberation, and that liberation is defined as the destruction of the asavas. So what is this asavas? Asavas are the uncontrolled mental outflows, the mind flowing This is what is called the leakage of the mind. In Chinese we call lo, lao, sim, lao. So basically, this is the outflow of consciousness, because consciousness creates the world. It is the 5 consciousness that creates the outer world. The seeing consciousness, the hearing, smelling, taste, touch consciousness. And the thinking consciousness creates the inner world. Okay? So whenever the consciousness flows, the world is created, and that is samsara. So to stop samsara, we have to stop the flow of consciousness. Okay? So how to stop the flow of consciousness is to have this mindfulness, mindfulness of the here and now, right? So whenever we are mindful of our body, we come back to the present. We are not thinking of the past, we are not daydreaming of the future and all these things. We come back to the here and now. So that is sampajanya, mindfulness in relation to our body. But even that is not so important as to be a factor of the Noble Eightfold Path. You notice in the Noble Eightfold Path, do you have a Samma Sampajanya? You don't have. Right mindfulness you don't have. But you have right Sammasati. So Sammasati is to be mindful of these 4 objects and to remember to be mindful only of these 4 objects. So if we have sati, the Buddha says in 9 suttas that we may remember very clearly what was said and done a long time ago. So if our mind runs, for example, the more we sleep, the more blur we become, the more we forget. But the Buddha's disciples, they practice sati and sampajanya to the extent that they don't sleep. The monks, they have to practice until they are mindful 24 hours a day. Then only they can become an arahant. Because in the Vinaya books, it is said that you cannot fault an arahant. You cannot accuse an arahant of doing anything wrong, because his mindfulness is 24 hours a day. That mindfulness has to be cultivated to that extent. So this that is sati. And if you practice this sammasati, you are practicing vipassana. Now what is samatha? Samatha is the 8th factor. Samatha is the 8th factor, right? Concentration. Now how the Buddha, in the Majjhima Nikaya, the Buddha says that the Noble Eightfold Path is practiced one by one, starting with right view. Right view will lead you to the 2nd factor. Right thoughts will lead you to the 3rd factor, which will lead you to the 4th factor. So the 7th factor should lead you to the 8th factor. In other words, if you practice vipassana correctly, you should end up with sammasati. That is why in the Satipatthana Samyutta of the Samyutta Nikaya, there's one sutta where the Buddha says that if a monk practices Satipatthana skillfully, he will end up with samadhi. But another monk who does not practice Satipatthana skillfully or correctly, he will not attain samadhi or jhana. So the jump from sammasati, the 7th factor, to the 8th factor, sammasamadhi, the link is actually satipatthana. Satipatthana is an intense state of sati. Intense state of sati, where the sati, not for a moment, is lost. Practice until it's mindful all the time, and also on one object. If you practice Satipatthana, it's on one object. There's a difference with practicing Sati. Practicing Samasati, you can contemplate any of the 4 objects, and you can change the objects. And you can do that whether you are sitting, or you are walking, or you are standing, or you are lying down. But when you are sitting with your eyes closed, that is the only time you can practice the 8 factor, samatha. So that's a difference between the Buddha's mindfulness and recollection. And you notice that the Buddha's mindfulness is not general mindfulness.
There's a refrain as well in the Satipatthana Prajna. Something about we have to see it without like and dislike, because then we get engaged. I have a question because I don't know whether I'm deluding myself. I like to think that the Tai Chi that I'm doing teaches me awareness, because it's that level of mindfulness that will increase in this practice. And it's very hard to say, I want to be more mindful, but you need a means to develop that mindfulness. And I find like the Tai Chi helps me develop that. But because of the light Bhante and the refrain in the Satipatthana, I'm just wondering if I'm deluding myself that maybe this is not consistent with practice. What does Bhante think?
I think if you practice being mindful of anything and it's of benefit to you, it's okay.
I thought it's the body, it develops that awareness of what the knee is doing, that level of heightened awareness, I thought can't be a bad thing. But a friend of mine, Bhante, who is not Buddhist, he said that you better be careful, Jin, he said, of the energy system that you're opening yourself to. And I'm like, hey, Buddha's elephant footprint, everything can fit inside, he said, but he's not a Buddhist. And he just frightened me a little because he said, when you do Tai Chi, it's opening up to another energy field, which I may not know where I'm tapping into, and I may have been blown off course and not know, you see. So I don't know what Bhante's view is.
But he's not specific enough. It's just like some people say, don't meditate because you can chow hoi jip more.
Yeah. That's what they say, Bhante. Don't hoi jip more.
Yeah. So it's not...
no, it's not that. I felt guilty
because
because I enjoy it so much. I'm not allowed to enjoy, right?
Not really. The Buddha...
The like, Bhante, the like, then the craving is in there, you see.
The Buddha didn't say that like itself is bad. The Buddha said there are 2 types of enjoyment. Worldly enjoyment, if it leads to suffering, then don't indulge in it. But if it does not lead to suffering, it's okay, like meditation, the bliss of meditation. So, firstly, everybody needs a bit of exercise. So if you take it from that point of view, I need some exercise, it's okay.
But I didn't tell Bhante the full story. Colin says I should give it up. Because in the Tai Chi, there is not just Tai Chi, there is weapons, Bhante. And when Jian is in my hand, it's like a past life thing, Bhante, I can fly with the Jian. And then I went into Guan Dao, which is Guan Gong's weapon. And I'm learning that. And I enjoy it very much, Bhante. But they're fake weapons. So Colin says, because you enjoy it so much, you better be careful. So I'm asking Bhante, do I have to give it up? If Bhante says give up, I have to give up.
I think Colin is frightened by your moves. One day you might get violent in the kitchen.
So I can continue, Bhante?
You make the decision. If you don't do Tai Chi, what exercise are you going to do?
I find it helps the sit.
But don't bring those weapons back home.
Bhante, what are your views with respect to practicing vipassana? Like, there is vipassana, as Bhante said, as the seventh factor of the Noble Eightfold Path, and we should do that every day, because when you're not sitting, it's like still trying to remember the recollections as best we can. It will not be perfect mindfulness, it will be like snatchy, patchy mindfulness, but slowly, hopefully, we can be more joined up. Then there is a controversy about whether you have to, not that I'm anywhere near that, Bhante, I just don't even know why I'm asking. They said like you have to come out of jhana to do the vipassana, or you have to be in jhana to vipassana. So I'm not quite sure I understand that at all. Because the was it the Yuganada Sutta that says you need both? It's like right foot and left foot, you need to develop both. So the mindfulness will help the concentration, and the concentration, the mindfulness. But when you go into jhana, and you don't want to end up like Alara, and all the others, you have to do vipassana. But when do you do that, Bhante? It's like controversy in Theravada, right?
You must remember the vipassana meditation that is taught nowadays did not exist during the Buddha's time, like Mahasi method, Goenka method and all that. So, of the four objects of vipassana, namely the body, feelings, mind and Dhamma, you find the last one is the most important. Because the Buddha said, there are 5 occasions when a person becomes enlightened, only 5 occasions. One when he's listening to the Dhamma, when he's teaching the Dhamma, when he's repeating the Dhamma, when he's reflecting on the Dhamma, and the last one only during meditation. So the knowledge of the Dhamma or the Suttas is extremely important. That's why the Buddha's disciples are all called savakas, listeners or hearers. If you don't listen to the Buddha's words, you are not the Buddha's follower, you are not the Buddha's disciple. And during the Buddha's time, because they had no books, the monks and nuns and the lay followers had to memorize the suttas, repeat the suttas. So when you memorize and repeat the suttas in the local language, then it sticks in the mind. Not like nowadays we read, and many of us read too much. And you read too much, it doesn't stick in the mind. So the knowledge of the suttas is crucial, not only to enlightenment, even for the different stages of path and fruition. Also, because if there is no Dhamma in the world, you cannot find Arya. Arya, because all Aryas, the basic requirement for an Arya is what? Right view. All Aryans have right view. If you look at the Majjhima Nikaya, there are 2 conditions for you to attain right view. One is the voice of another, teaching you the Dhamma. The second is Yoniso Manasikara, which can be simply translated as proper attention or thorough attention. So only when you listen to the Dhamma from somebody else, like the Buddha, you read the Nikayas, only then you can get right view. If you just meditate, there are some meditation teachers, they tell their followers not to read any book. Just meditate. I have one monk friend, just came back from overseas. 9 years he was in a meditation center. And because that meditation center, they speak in a foreign language which he doesn't know in that country. So all he does is meditate. After 9 years he came back and asked him, "What did you get? did you make progress in your meditation? He said, no. He was very frank, not like some people. I said, no. No. Sitting for 9 years, nothing.